Welcome to this section. This section is on addition and subtraction. So there's essentially two methods of writing integers, and these two methods help us separate the integer from the operator. The first method is the bracket method, which I use, and the other method is slightly raising the sign of the number. So here's a few examples here of both methods. See how you can use it to differentiate the operator in each case. Okay, this is very important here. This helps us simplify things in such a way that we can evaluate the expression. So the rule is that if they're the same when they're next to each other, we replace with a plus, and if they're different, then we replace with a minus operator. And there's a few examples here. See how we got in these examples 3 and 4, when they're different, they go to a minus. It's very important that you do this. So I've got a few examples here. Okay, there's an operator. Here we've got an operator plus followed by a negative number, so we replace that with a minus operator. Here it's just a plus, so the operator and the sign of the number need to be together, as in this example here. See how we replaced it with a minus. Okay, a few examples here. See, they're the same, so we replace with a plus. Here there's just 1, so it still stays the same. Here they're both the same, so you change it to a plus. So when they're the same, a plus. When they're different, it's a minus. So let's work our way through a few examples. So how I do this is that I just add two or combine two numbers together at a time. That's my way of doing it. So I go 10 minus 3 is 7. Write down the plus 4, and then I do that. Here I've got minus 3 minus 7 plus 5 minus 1. So that makes minus 7. Plus 5. Then I've got minus 7 plus 5. So you'll be like on minus 7, the number line, and you're going adding 5 to it. So whenever you have a minus, you're always going to the left, and whenever you have a plus, you're always going to the right, if you're thinking it from a number line point of view. So here's a few activities. Work your way through. You'll find the answers on the website. Okay, a few more examples here. So I kind of write these things without the brackets first. See, here we have, they're different, so the rule is it's a minus. And then you just go left to right. So here, because they're both minus, you go to the left on your number lines. That's where you get the negative 10 from. Okay, whenever you see a minus, you're going to the left. That's why it's negative 12. So here once again, yeah, so they're different, so you write it as minus 5. So that would be negative 7, and negative 12. So minus always to the left, plus is always to the right. Here's an activity for you to do. Here's something a little bit harder. So they're the same, so write it as a plus. They're different, so write it as a minus. Now I'll just do left to right. So 11 minus 3, you go to the left, so that'd be 8. minus 2. Okay, minus to the left again, so you'd be 6. Here's a few activities. Remember, they're the same plus, they're different minus. Okay, addition and subtraction of fractions. Now the key thing when adding fractions is that you need to have the same denominator underneath. So I've got an example here where they've got the same denominator already. So you've got a quarter plus 2 quarters. Now when the denominator is the same, you just add the numerators. So 1 quarter plus 2 quarters. In some ways it makes sense that it is 3 quarters. So the secret to adding fractions is to have them to have the same denominator. So to do that, what we need to do is find a number that both denominators go into, and that's called the common denominator. So how you find it is that you multiply the 3 and the 5 together, because both 3 and 5 go into 15. So then you write each fraction such that it has 15 underneath it. So a third, to make 3 into 15, you multiply top and bottom by 5. To make the 5 into 15, multiply top and bottom by 3. So in some ways, you use that idea of an equivalent fraction. So both numbers now are under 15. So we've got 5 fifteenths plus 6 fifteenths. That would make it 11 fifteenths. So the key thing is common denominator. Went the wrong way there. Here we are. Here's another example. So in this case here, we need to find a number that both 3, 5 and 4 go into it. And the easiest way to find it is just multiply the numbers together. So when I do that, I get 60. I know 3 goes into that, I know 5 goes into that, I know 4 goes into it. Now, you need to get each fraction with 60 underneath it. So to make the 3 into a 60, you multiply by 20. So you've got to do that top and bottom. Likewise with the 5, to make that 60, you multiply top and bottom by 12. And with 4, you multiply it top and bottom by 15 to make it 60. So the key is to get everything under the same denominator. You can only add fractions or subtract fractions when they're under the same denominator. It's the only way to do it. So once you've done that, you can then combine the numerators together. See how I've written them all under the 60? And then you can just do it as we did in the previous section, just do it left to right. 20 plus 24 is 44 minus 45. So our answer would be negative 1 over 60. Let's move on to the next couple of questions. So here's a couple of activities. Common denominator. With mixed numbers, I would convert them into impropers first. So that's the first thing I would do. Now, I've just started you off here, just to help you along. Yeah, so convert them into that. That's a far easier way of doing it. Okay, let's talk about addition and subtraction of decimals. So when we're doing this, I always say you take a common sense approach to it first. So you kind of always look at the question and say what should be the answer. So as we know, when we add in 2 positive numbers, we should get a bigger positive number. When we add 2 negative numbers, we kind of should get a bigger negative number, if you know what I mean. So we've got negative 3 and negative 5. You should get negative 8, shouldn't we? I've just missed the negative sign there. So that should be negative 8 there. Okay. So when you're adding a negative number and a positive number together, the number with the bigger magnitude determines the sign of the number. So here, because the negative 8 was bigger by magnitude, your answer is going to be negative. Likewise, if the bigger number is a positive number by magnitude, then the answer should be positive. Okay, here's a few examples. So, when I'm doing this stuff here, I kind of work out what the answer, whether it's going to be positive or negative first. So I'm just doing it with integers first, just to show you a technique here. So there we are. We just add them together. So when you're doing decimals, you do the same thing again. Know your answer is going to be positive. So you line up the decimal numbers together like this. So you add the second decimal places together, the first. So remember the 3 plus the 8 is 11, so you carry the 1, write down the 1. Okay, with negative numbers. So remember, adding two negative numbers together gives you a bigger negative number. So in some ways you're just adding them and just sticking a negative sign in front of them. That's what you're really doing. So you go 4 plus 6 is 10, and because they're both negative, you know your answer will be negative. Now we use that same idea here. We just simply add them together first. Because they're both negative, we're going to get a bigger negative. So 1 plus 4 is 5, once again. But because both numbers were negative, our answer will be negative, a bigger negative. So let's look at this couple of examples here. We've got 4 minus 6. So the answer is going to be negative because the bigger number by magnitude is negative. So how we do this is that because we know the answer is going to be negative, we just put the bigger number on top and we subtract the 4 from it. So we get the 2. But because we know the answer was going to be negative, we stick a negative sign in there. So it's a technique more than anything. So with the second one, we know the answer is going to be negative. So we write the number that is bigger by magnitude on the top, and we subtract the number smaller by magnitude on the bottom. But because we know the answer is negative, we stick a negative sign out the front once we do that. So it's a process. In some ways it doesn't make a lot of logical sense, but it works. Okay, so the next one, the number bigger by magnitude is the 6. So we know our answer is going to be positive. So we just put the bigger number by magnitude on the top and subtract the smaller number by magnitude on the bottom. Important to practice this skill. And after time, you do kind of follow it. So the answer will be positive. Because the bigger number by magnitude is positive. So remember to do the exercises in the book. Here's a few activities for you to try in your family.